Hi, I'm Jessica Rudnicki with Reynolds and Reynolds. Welcome back to Connected. Today, we have a special guest with us to talk about key control and management strategies. Susan DeSantis is the marketing director for KeyTrak, which provides dealerships with efficient and secure electronic key management systems. I'm very happy to have her on today. Before we get started, remember, you can now listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts by searching for the Connected Podcast. Subscribe on these channels to get notified every Wednesday when new episodes are released. Let's get connected. Hi, Susan. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Jess.
Yeah, it's absolutely my pleasure. I thought this would be a great opportunity for you to educate both myself and the audience on why key management and control are so important. So I want to talk to you a little bit about an experience I had with a dealership pretty recently. I scheduled a vehicle to be brought to me for a test drive. I set up the appointment and was told that a salesperson would be at my house, which is actually pretty close to the dealership, within that hour. So that day, almost 2 hours later, he showed up. So he was obviously really late. He was apologetic and kept explaining to me that they had a little trouble locating the key to the car, which really surprised me because I didn't know that that was possible that could happen at a dealership. But hopefully you can kind of explain that a little bit more. So basically, because he was late, I had to cancel some of my plans, and obviously I wasn't very happy with the dealership. So hopefully you can kind of help us understand how something like this happens at a dealership.
Oh, you bet, you bet. And it's actually happening a lot more now because of the expectation for the contactless test drives and car buying process. But the problem almost always starts with not having a secure central location to keep your keys. If you don't have a process in place to keep your keys exactly where they are when you need them, then you're going to run into situations like this where the salesman can't find keys to give those test drives. The dealership you contacted probably didn't have a system to keep track of the keys, where another salesman probably had the keys and the one you were working with couldn't figure out where they were to get your test drive to you on time. If they would have had something more centralized, you probably would have had that test drive in an hour.
Yeah. So what do you mean by a trackable way? So what type of system would a dealership want to have for their keys?
Well, what I mean by that is like the dealership could use an electronic key management system to manage and track keys, where they are and who has them. So the salesman could have gone into the system, reserved a key for you for your test drive time, and that key would have been there for him when it was time to give you that test drive. It would have set your expectation and actually met your expectation because that key would not be sitting on another salesperson's desk or in someone else's pocket.
Yeah, well, that definitely would have been a much better experience for me.
Probably would have bought the car, right?
Yeah, I would have.
Well, in addition to being a huge service reputation issue, it can also be a huge and costly liability issue.
So I assume the cost of replacing keys can get pretty expensive for a dealership, but what other ways can poor management of keys impact their business?
It's a good question. I'll mention a recent example we ran across where earlier this year, a group of kids from the North Carolina area stole several $1,000,000 worth of vehicles from several dealerships. The kids actually went into the dealership, told the dealership employees that they were kids of parents that were, searching for a car, and they just went around the dealership and picked up keys that were unattended, left on desks and such, both in the sales and in the service drives. Some of the kids were only 9 years old, and they took the keys and went off joyriding.
Yeah, well, I assume that's a huge liability risk. What happens if those kids caused any damage to the cars?
Well, it is a huge liability risk because if the kids caused any damage with those vehicles, then the dealership would, or hurt anybody, the dealership would be liable for those incidents, and especially they would be liable because they did not take the right measures to secure their keys properly. And there's even precedent for that. That's happened before. And think about it too, the reputation management aspect of it for both the customers who had their service vehicles taken and the new customers that were waiting for their test drives.
Definitely. Doesn't sound like a good situation to be in. So what can dealerships do to protect themselves?
Well, in addition to normal security measures, a store should have the right method to secure their keys properly, allowing keys to be kept on desks, in desk drawers, on an open pegboard, or even on the vehicle, or even in a locked filing cabinet. It's something like that, anybody can gain access to those keys. The best thing to do is to secure keys in a solid steel electronic key control system. If you have the right system, it's going to be pretty near impossible to get into it without the right user credentials. And if there's a case where your dealership might have had a key stolen or are being held liable for something, that with an electronic key management system, you can have an automatic audit trail of all the key activity to prove you took the right measures and the right steps to protect those keys.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely sounds like a pretty risky situation to be in. I wouldn't want to be in that situation. So I definitely hope everyone watching right now has a key management system in place.
Yeah, you bet. And it's even more important now as some dealerships are still closed or they're running at low staff or even reduced hours during this time. And so theft is a lot more enticing. So it's super critical that you get your keys locked down and stored securely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Susan, thank you so much for being here and for educating us on key control. I don't think it's something that everyone probably thinks about, so it was definitely important for us to hear today.
You bet, of course. Thanks so much, Jess, for having me.
Thank you. It was great to talk with Susan today. Before we hop off, just a quick reminder. You can watch past and future podcast episodes on YouTube and Apple or Spotify podcasts by searching for the Connected Podcast. Hit the subscribe button to get notified every Wednesday when new episodes are released. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday.